sports listeners. I'm your host, Erica Salda, the Queen of Teen. Please tune in
every single Tuesday.
This whole hour of Santa Barbara teen athletes. Woo! And we're talking all athletes. Welcome, everybody, for landing on Teen Sports Radio. Thank you, thank you, thank you. In the house today, we have Ed Langlo, Dominique Hackett, Christine Marie, Dr. Amy Salzman, our producer, Richard Dugan. We have Don Sanders in the house, and we are blessed to have Clara McDonald, part of the CIF team that it just rocked it all year. Volleyball, Bishop Diego High School has not been done since 1979. I know that year because I graduated in that year. Clara, can you believe that? Since I graduated, you guys have finally done it again. I'm so happy. So let's do a little, she's got the states to go to. So we've got her for about 5 minutes. She's going to do a little Bishop recap. Clara McDonald, talk to us.
Hi, so I'm back with Clara for the Cardinal recap. And most of our fall sports have come to an end, and it's just playoff season. But water polo did have one last game. Actually, it was two. And they played SM and SB, and they did lose. But they had a really good season. It was pretty much their first season due to the last of COVID. But football had their last regular season game against Camarillo, and they won 38-7, and this made them Camino League champions. So that was so cool for them.
Nice.
And then this year, football CIF did this thing where they change your division after the season. So Bishop only lost one game of their season, so they got moved up a division, and they were moved up to Division 2, and they were the 16th seed, meaning they played the first team seed in the first round of playoffs. They played really well, but they ended up losing 45-14 to Albany High School. But they had a really good season. They only lost 2 games. And then girls volleyball played Santa Monica Catholic in the semifinals, and they swept them. And it was the first time since 1979 since we were going to the finals.
Right.
In the CIF finals, we were so lucky to be able to play at home, and everyone really showed up. We had a great, loud crowd, which was awesome. We played Capistrano Valley Christian and swept them in 3 sets, making us CIF champions. This was just an unforgettable experience for everyone. Our team played so well. We had 12 aces, with Alina Urzua leading the team with 4. Her sisters Sienna Urzua and Emma Cogleiser each had 3 of them. Alina Urzua was also named Athlete of the Week, so congratulations to Alina. The other Urzua, Eliana, had 20 kills, and her sister Sienna had 8, and then I had 6. It's been over 40 years since the girls volleyball won CIF, and it was just an incredible experience. I keep thinking about it, when we won, just that final point.
You'll take that with you forever. You will take that with you forever.
So then we advanced to first round of state, where we played Hillcrest, and that was a really hard battle. We looked tired on the court, which is that it's expected. We won CIF, and then we just had a light practice. So we went to 5 sets with them, and it was home. We had a really good crowd, and we won in the 5th set by 2 points.
Whoa.
So that one was really tight. But once again, Eliana Urzua led the way with 27 kills, and our libero, Emma Cogleiser, had 19 digs. So everyone played really good that game. Today we play second round state against TAF. We're hoping to get another win and just keep advancing through state. They're ranked 2nd, and we're ranked 7th. So it'll be a battle, but we're going to do good. And that's all
we're sending you lots of love.
We just want to know we want to get pictures from you so I could put it up on Facebook for your team builder meeting. When are you going to do that?
Oh, I got to talk to my team about that one. I'm sure once the season kind of starts to wrap up, everyone will be able to come to that.
Nice. Save it for the big prize.
We will. And then that's all I have for our Cardinal recap. Like I said, a lot of the fall sports are wrapping up. Volleyball's just left. But thanks again for having me.
Clara, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
What is one thing that you are going to focus on or support the team in focusing on for the next game?
I think our back row passing. That's really what hurt us against Hillcrest. There was this one girl. It was her second game back. She had a torn ACL, and we were just getting eaten up back row. And then, if you can't get a good pass, you can't get a good set, and then it just ends up a free ball over. So really just support back row. Once you have a server on the other team and they just keep serving you and you keep missing it, your self-confidence just it starts to lower. And we really, as a team, got to work to be picking up the people back row, especially when they're getting targeted back row.
Can I offer a team suggestion?
Yeah.
So individually and collectively, you might want to create a mistake ritual. Mm-hmm. And it can be something like making a flush motion or brush it off your shoulder or cutting yourself some slack. But you can do it by yourself, or it's better if the whole team does it. But it just means that point's done, it's gone, and we're focusing on this one. So a word or a phrase or a movement, something that says next point.
Can you imagine if you're all in the net and you all go like this? Everyone's going to go, what are they doing? Whoa, Dr. Amy Salzman, mindfulness training. That's what this is. Let it go.
You don't have to do all of them, Erica. Just one is plenty.
Yeah, no, let's make it big.
Might be a distraction for the other team.
Yeah.
Quick question. I wanted to ask you, Clara, what is the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about why you love your sport?
I would definitely say my coach. I think that a good coach can definitely determine how much you like that sport and how much you really want to play the game. And the coach came when I was a freshman, and he has made me love this game more than any other coach has.
Wow.
And his name is, for the world to hear?
Dylan Bennett.
Go, hey, Dylan! Shout out to Dylan. Oh my God!
Go out and have some fun, Clara.
Yeah, listen. A coach's success is measured not by the number of wins produced, by the number of winners produced. And you're a winner, so go, Coach Dylan. So if I had a daughter wanting to play the sport coming up in 7th and 8th grade, Bishop would be the place.
For sure.
Yes. Little Bishop plug there. You see how we do this marketing? We do marketing here. All right, get back. I know you got to get on the road. God bless you. Good luck.
Thank you for having me. Bye, you guys.
All right. Hey, let's take a quick little break. So we have a lot of show to go. And let's do it. We've got some new commercials. All right. I'm looking forward to it. We've got Ed Langlow right after these messages. We are back, and this is Santa Barbara Teen Sports Radio Show. I am your host, Erica Salda, the Queen of Teen. Please tune in
every single Tuesday,
9 a.m.
We are back. I'm Ed Langlow, and I have a conversation that I would like to direct at the teens listening in to the show, and we can all learn from it. But if you've been listening to the news lately, you probably heard about a fellow by the name of Henry Ruggs, 22-year-old former receiver for the Las Vegas Raiders. He was let go the day after this tragedy. So he is a former receiver. And I hope we can all learn from this incident that alcohol is not your friend. In one of my past segments, I compared alcohol to fire. Fire is probably the most destructive element on this planet, and yet we bring it into our homes, put it in our fireplace, pour a glass of wine, and sit back and enjoy the ambience that the warming fire creates. But if that fire gets out of control, it can take everything you have. It'll burn your house down. It'll take all your clothes in the closet, burn the garage down, the car in it, and kill you with ease. And like that fire, that glass of wine, if that gets out of control and becomes an alcoholic habit, in a different manner, it can take everything you have, your house, your home, your family, and your life. So Henry Ruggs had just signed a 4-year contract for $16.6 million with the Raiders. And he went from being on top of the world to, after this accident, being an anathema. He blew a .161 alcohol. That's twice the legal limit. He was drunk. The computer monitor system in that Corvette showed a top speed of 156 miles an hour. He was going 127 when he rear-ended that Toyota, killing the 23-year-old driver. Now, not only did Henry, under the influence of alcohol, destroy his life, but he obviously ended the life of a very young lady and her parents. I'm speculating here, but her parents are probably in their 40s. He's destroyed their life. They're going to live out the remainder of their lives with a knot in their stomach and a void in their life. They'll never see their daughter again. So you can look into this yourselves. I encourage, especially the teens, go online and search Henry Ruggs, search his name, read the articles, and see what alcohol can do to you. And I'll end this conversation the way I end most of my If Only I'd Known segments by saying, promise you this, if you learn what alcohol can do to you, you will live a much safer and much happier life for it. Erica, do you have anything to add to that?
You know, I've only talked about this with one person, Sammy. He was also co-host on Teen Sports Radio, was helping out with some chores here at the house. And I always look at things, everyone signs up for different things in life. And he made a horrible mistake, should have known better. But like you had brought up, and we've had conversations about this, Ed, it's like, it's kind of like giving somebody a loaded gun. Right. I don't know. What can we do? We can just learn from it and move on. I mean, he has to pay. There's no excuse for it. We have this generation has Uber. This generation, when you're making that much money, I was telling Dominique the other day, we have a friend that has a very wealthy friend, goes up to the casino, likes to party, likes to do all his things. But, he sets himself up with the driver, and he has somebody to be with. So you contain yourself and you create a team of people that's going to support you if you want to just get knocked out of your body for 6-8 hours. And he didn't do that. So
it can be done.
And just to add to the conversation real quick, if you're worried about someone, you take their keys. That is the kindest thing you can do, is take an action, take their keys, and do not let them drive.
Yeah, because that alcohol is telling them that everything is fine. You're 10 foot tall and bulletproof. And that's all just adds to part of the problem. With the younger you are, the more you use your amygdala to do your decision making. And that controls the excitement, the emotional part. Your frontal cortex is not matured. You don't use reasoning, and there's nothing wrong with that. You're not a bad person. You're just young. You haven't finished maturing, and you add alcohol to that mix, and you have a recipe for disaster like this one that happened in Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm. And maybe Dr. Amy, you can speak to this. I did not, my mom did not know this. I did not know this as my kids were growing up so much later, about how the responsibility part of our brain, or the part of our brain that is in charge of being a responsible human being, is still developing. Can you speak and let people know that this is not, it's not the fault of our kids, but one of the main jobs of a parent is to say no.
Yeah, and I think actually you and Ed did a beautiful job of explaining it. The part of your brain that we're talking about is called the prefrontal cortex. And when we kind of think about the brain, our human brain developed kind of from the bottom up. So the bottom, like the amygdala, the limbic system, is our fight, flight, or freeze part of our brain, which is all about survival. And then the prefrontal cortex, like the big wrinkly part that you see in all the pictures, it's the part right above your eyebrows at your forehead. That's like our most advanced, compassionate, wisest decision-making part of our brain. And it really is not developed until you're about 25 or 26. So for kids, you just kind of have to know that and double check yourself, double check your friends. And for parents, we need to have both some compassion, some patience, a little bit of sense of humor, and then the ability to say no and set some boundaries.
I've heard Dr. D use the phrase or the adage, measure twice, cut once. So for a teen, think twice and decide once. Think twice about your decisions, because you are making decisions based on your emotions and the excitement involved in that decision and not your reasoning. So think it over twice. Use the reasoning part of your logic before you make a decision to do anything, especially get into a car or on a motorcycle after you've been drinking. It's a recipe for disaster.
One last comment. When my parents taught me to drive at 15 and a half, the first thing my father said to me was, "This is a weapon. You are getting into a weapon."
Yeah.
And that stuck with me my whole life long. And I pass that on to my children when they learn to drive. This is a weapon because it can kill someone.
And if you ever drove with Dominique, you would understand that stuck with her, right? Like she always wants to know if,
Can I turn yet?
Would you like me to drive? I'd like to get home. I'd really like to get home.
Well,
enjoy the journey. Yes.
I will share with you, folks, that first of all, it's bad enough if you are inebriated, but I'm going to tell you it's even worse when you're not. And I was involved in an accident where I hit a human being with my truck in an intersection. Ooh. Now, I was turning, so I was at a dead stop. So it wasn't that much of an acceleration, but like Dominique, I am operating not a car, not a comfort zone. I'm operating a machine. Okay, it's a machine, and it can hurt me and it can hurt other people. And in this case, what I found interesting, and this is just a sidebar, the gentleman that I hit was 71 years old, but he was very agile to the extent that he wouldn't go to the hospital. They checked him out. He wouldn't go to the hospital, and he walked away after it was all over. My insurance company finally contacted him, and they settled for what I thought was rather exorbitant, but it turns out I got off cheap in that respect. But it still, the fire police and paramedics were asking if I was okay because I was so upset. I almost handed my driver's license to the police and said, "I'm done. It's over. I'm not driving anymore." And so forth. So it's one thing if you do it and you're under the influence. I got to tell you, when you're stone cold sober, boy, it really hits home. It really, and you think I'm not really tentative when I'm making left turns and going across a crosswalk? Oh yeah. So that's.
I mean, there are so many things that as parents we pass on to our children. And we want to pass on the love of life and the love of learning and the love of being in community and so forth. But we do have to also pass on, how do we do things like drive? How do we be in the world and be in our community and be safe, be loving and safe?
That's true.
Christine, do you have a quick comment?
I think when I'm thinking about when I was a teenager and my situation was a little interesting because I had a mother who didn't set a lot of boundaries, and I had to set my own boundaries and make myself safe, right? Because my sister was out there being a wild child, and I was like, "Ooh, don't do that. Don't want to do that. Not gonna. Okay, I might try that. Glad she did that. I can know how that's gonna work out." And I think, and I learned to drive a little bit later. I got my license at 17, but I was learning, before. And it is, that first accident I had where I, veered and didn't hit somebody, but hit a parked car and actually put my name on the parked car and had to pay, the thing. And the responsibility factor of that is pretty powerful. Those vehicles, I mean, truly, I was watching a podcast today where someone was talking about, I think it was Jordan Peterson was talking about how if cars were invented today, very few people would be allowed to drive them because they're so dangerous. But because everything happened so slowly and evolved into this place that now it's assumed that everybody drives. And I thought, what an interesting thought. I wonder if that's the case, So just looking at really the power and the dangerousness that we have in our hands, and that we start at 16, is pretty amazing.
I started at 38, and and I still am in awe of the fact that, oh my gosh, I'm driving in California highways. Oh my God.
And then speaking to the drinking component, I was raised where my parents drank wine at a meal, but we talked about it. We talked about the effect of alcohol in the body and the different customs all throughout time. I mean, it used to be back in, I want to say the 1600s, 1700s. If you grew up in England, you drank mead, especially if you lived in London, because you didn't know if the water was safe to drink. Mm-hmm. So as a society, we have integrated alcohol and alcohol-based substances, fluids, drinking them as part of community. So it's something that we want to encourage parents and teens to talk about.
Definitely. It's all about the conversation, and for the mindfulness that a teenager, teen sports radio just really, really encourages to take that 15 seconds, take a break before you're going to make a decision that can cost you or somebody else their life. Let's take a break. This is Erica Salda, the Queen of Teen. We're going to be back with Dominique's Hygge Hallelujah after these messages.
Hygge moment.
Hygge.
You're simply the best.
We are back, and this is Santa Barbara Teen Sports Radio Show. I am your host, Erica Salda, the Queen of Teen. Please tune in
Every single Tuesday.
9 a.m.
Welcome back to Teen Sports Radio. I'm Dominique Hackett, and I'm going to share a Hackett Hygge moment with you all.
Hygge, Hygge, Hygge. We got to do the Hygge song. Right.
So Hygge has to do with a quality of comfort, wellness, and well-being that we all want to encourage and create in our environments. And I have a suggestion of something that I have learned from my mother. So my mom, especially around Thanksgiving and Christmas time, you can find these in CVS. She purchased a couple of battery-operated candles. And these candles, not only are they safe because it's not a live fire, but you you turn them on, or you connect the battery right when it starts getting dark. And so what you can do is you can set these candles around your room, and as evening is descending, the candle comes on and it stays on for about 3 or 4 hours, and then it goes off, and it remembers the 24-hour time. That's how the candles are made. So every evening, the candles will come on at a particular time that you set. Now, the reason why I'm recommending this is the quality of candles, candlelight, low lighting is very soothing to our nervous system. And especially in the evening, I want to recommend, even if you're having to study late into the night, do things to create an environment where your body is more relaxed. And when you're more relaxed, when you're studying, you will retain more information. Because when we get all stressed out, especially focusing on passing a test or getting a paper in on time, teens will find that the cortisol level increases and you're actually more in your limbic brain rather than in your neocortex. And you really want to be in your neocortex, that new part of the brain that's, as we were talking about, that's up above your eyebrows. You want to be there in that gray matter, creating those new wrinkles. And to be there, being more relaxed is incredibly helpful. helpful. So my Huga tip is go check out CVS, purchase some of those candles that are operated with batteries. That way it's safe, and set up the ambiance in your room. So you may still be reading on a Kindle, or you may have good direct light on whatever it is that you are studying, but then the atmosphere around you can be candlelight.
I gotta say, it's really cool. And then you didn't add this, but I don't know if you're saving it for next week's Huga. Okay. But she has this remote control and there's different colors. So is that next week's Huga? Am I already foretelling something that's really bad?
No, I'll add this in.
Either that or she has this button phobia. Okay. I don't know. She's got fingernosis. Okay. She just likes to do stuff like this. Right?
I learned this from the Braille Institute from Richard Ellsworth. So Richard teaches visibly impaired people life skills. And one of the life skills is even though you may be visually impaired or low vision, you do have lights around your house. And especially, if you're interacting with people who are sighted, there's lights. And we now have lights that can be purchased from Ace or Home Depot that come with a remote control. And the remote will make the light have different color spectrums. So in the evening, I set the lamp that is in the bedroom to a red in order to
red light district.
In order to help reduce the amount of cortisol that's in the body and allow for the hormones in the body to shift so that I can get ready for sleep. And so, yes, you can experiment. Just like candlelight, you can experiment with different light spectrums and see how that interacts with your body. Oh, look at that. Richard has just joined us. Once he pops in, we can ask him more about the science of lights and the health of the body. But you are correct. I have set up a couple of lights around the house that are, you can use a remote. Hello, Richard. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, I was just speaking about you. Your ears must be ringing. I have set up a light in the bedroom where when I click the remote, it has a red tinge to it. It has a red light. Can you help explain why in the evening it's important to have that red light around you?
It's a red light district, Richard.
No. It's for hormones. Would you have a chance to jump into that?
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of my favorite things to talk about because I think it is so important. But what happens is when you're visually perceiving, and you don't have to have vision for this, but when your eyes are perceiving red light, it signals your brain to start producing melatonin. Right? And that is what gets you sleepy. That's what helps to keep your circadian rhythm on track. Now, naturally, before when we weren't, indoors with fluorescents and whatever, the amount of red light as the day starts to come to its conclusion starts to increase. So our brain starts to gradually produce more and more and more melatonin so that we kind of gradually wind down to sleep. And it's a very natural, slow process. Whereas these days with fluorescents and blue light coming out of your phones, it's the total opposite, right? You kind of go up and down all throughout the day. In the morning at dawn, that's when there's the most amount of blue light, right? And that signals your body to produce cortisol. So then you kind of start to feel that adrenaline kick and you start to have energy. But you don't want that in the evening before you go to bed. For sure. So by putting red lights or by blocking out blue light with blue blocking glasses, whatever it is you have, it'll improve your sleep quality drastically.
Sweet. Dr. Amy, we need your 15 cents here. You got the one with the education with the lettuce next to your name.
I was actually thinking about these things that you're suggesting and deposits and withdrawals in our energetic bank accounts. And maybe we can cover that after the next break.
Woo! Great. Let's go into break then. Listen to more new commercials. This is Erica Salda, the Queen of Teen. We'll be back with Dr. Amy Salzman and Richard Ellsworth after these messages.
Well, now together we will stand, every boy, girl, woman, and a man. Now people, let's get on the ball and work together. Come on, let's work together. Now people, because together we will stand, every boy, every girl, and a man.
We are back, and this is Santa Barbara Teen Sports Radio Show. I am your host, Erica Salda, the Queen of Teen. Please tune in
Every single Tuesday.
9 a.m.
Hello, this is Dr. Amy and Teen Sports Radio. You can find me at stillquietplace.com. And we were just talking about using red lights and blue lights to kind of change our energy. And one of the things that I'm just writing a piece for Psychology Today on maintaining a positive balance in our energetic bank account. And so there are certain times where you may want to increase your energy and have more blue light and more energy. And then there are times where maybe you want to fill up your energetic bank account by settling down, going to sleep, getting a good night's sleep, and using red light. And we can expand this concept even further so that you can consider what are your go-to deposits, whether it's playing guitar or petting your cat or taking a walk or talking to a friend, but also pay attention to what are your withdrawals, your current withdrawals, things that are coming up, like maybe a test or a big competition, or maybe you have a little bit of a cold. And the more teens and adults can tune into like, what is my bank balance in the moment, then we can make wise choices about how we take care of ourselves. And it's not to say that you're not going to go out and do something fun and maybe stay up late. But if you do that, then you want to know that that's a withdrawal and that you want to be ready to make a deposit later. And sometimes, unfortunately, our biggest withdrawals come as kind of a surprise. And that's why it's helpful to maintain a positive balance from the beginning, so that if you have a surprise withdrawal, you have some reserves.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And Christine, you had a huge amount to add to this.
Well, I'm still reading this book, Commitments of Conscious Leadership, and the first commitment was about responsibility, taking responsibility for what we can of our lives. The second thing is about learning through curiosity, and it's about really looking at that place. It's like, are we committed to growing and learning, or are we committed to being right? And when we're in survival, we're defensive. We want to be right. We're like, and that's a place where we're kind of in a defensive place. But the whole point is, if we can come back to a place of wonder and curiosity, then that cultivates sort of what's happening here. And is there something for me here to learn? And what can I take responsibility for here? It was really powerful because in this book, they talk about the capacity to shift. And how do we shift from our survival brain into our frontal cortex? How do we do that? And actually, one of the major things is that we can shift our physiology. And that's where Dr. Amy comes in with her breath, right? With the breath work that she talked about. That's one of the things they spoke about here, is that just taking deep breaths when we're in that defensive kind of place will shift our biology to the place, can shift our biology to the place and our structure, like how we're holding ourselves. If you find, when you're really defensive, or you really want to be right, or you want something, or you're trying to get, versus versus cultivating sort of, wow, what's really happening here? You think or if you don't. And so it's like, we know what we know, and we know what we don't know, but we don't know what we don't know. So this cultivating that wonder and doing that shift and that breathing, I think, is so important to get us from the survival limbic brain into that frontal cortex.
This is so relevant because sometimes, especially for teens, you're working out relationships and issues, you're working with other students, or you're working with a teacher to try to figure something out, and you hit a stressful place and you have to have conversations. And I'm curious if any of the co-hosts know, have there been studies done? Does lighting affect how what I would call nonviolent communication, how nonviolent communication happens. Does anyone know any studies about lighting and communication?
Does the red light help us relax in that place? You know what I mean? That would just seem to me, it would help us actually help shift our physiology into a place where we can relax. I'm seeing a thumbs up from Richard.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It will, because your cortisol levels are dropping, and it's increasing that sense of relaxation. But that doesn't mean that you're going to want to be, if you're really anxious at some point in the middle of the day or early in the morning, that you're going to want to start to put yourself in a red light environment or put on some blue blocking glasses, because then you're going to shift your circadian rhythm, right? Then your body's going to be like, oh, it's nighttime. And then you're going to kind of go on this roller coaster of, oh, it's morning, oh, it's evening, oh, it's morning. And there are actually a lot of diseases that can occur from, this type of imbalance in circadian rhythm.
So don't artificially wonk it. Dr. Amy.
Well, I was just going to say that often the most helpful thing to do when we're anxious is when we get anxious, then the next thing is we get anxious about being anxious. And often the kindest thing to do is just to say, wow, I'm feeling really anxious. Maybe put your hand on your heart. We did that a few months ago, but not trying to fix it, not trying to make it go away, just kind of opening up and making space for it, seeing if it has anything it wants to tell you or share with you, so that you're not resisting it and making it bigger, but you're making space for the feeling to come and move through in its own natural time course. Because sometimes we get so stressed about being anxious that we're forcing things.
I like that. Christine.
I was just thinking, like, in the young person's brain, right? Ed had mentioned that that we're still, as teenagers and young adults, we're still cultivating the frontal cortex. What an interesting. I wonder if that really supports that process when as a young person we do find ourselves, you do find yourselves in that state of survival or in a state of anxiety, and you breathe your way through it and you shift yourself up into your frontal cortex, which is still being developed. It'd be interesting to see what studies they have about that, or how that helps to cultivate that part of the brain.
Well, you go into the parasympathetic.
Yeah.
Parasympathetic is still part of the limbic system. So you can induce a parasympathetic nervous system and still be using your limbic system.
Don.
Hi, Don Sanders here. Don's Massage in Ojai, I should say. I want to pull it back a little bit to a broader perspective that people need to grow, and we need to be challenged to grow. And we can't be lulled into complacency thinking like, haven't I done enough? Or, rather reflect. Questions like, am I truly going in the right direction? Is my present state of life how it should be? Am I sure no one in the community is suffering? We got to look at those things with clear eyes. And so towards that end, I've been pushed into a lot of growth in the last couple of weeks, and it can be uncomfortable, but it's a good thing. And so I went and followed a dialogue about what in Buddhism is called non-substantiality, which is consistent with science. It basically means emptiness. We are like an atom where there's mostly empty space, and there can be these little event horizons, I believe they're called, where amazing things can happen where there was nothing a minute or a second before. And what that means is, from a certain standpoint, nothing's as vulnerable and fragile as a human being. We can be very base, we can be cruel, but we also, if we cultivate our that's one thing I love about this community on Teen Sports Radio, is that we're connectors and encouragers, and we're disciplining ourselves to continually apply, trying to improve, trying to encourage, trying to do better. And so if you're doing that, there's there's no bounds of how strong and noble human beings can be, but we can go either way. And so earlier in the show, we talked about people who just, fly off the rails and do all kinds of injurious, self-destructive things. And what we keep coming back to here, focusing, is how we can make this a positive experience of living. It's never going to, we're never going to stop growing. We can't stop growing. And if people don't accept that, then they feel like life is an endless, painful austerity. But if you can get in that flow of like, well, I feel really uncomfortable right now, but I can see from my past experience that, this is taking me in a more positive direction.
Very well said, Don. Thank you for that. Kids just have to realize when they hear or see things that if they feel is not right, they need to grab everything they can to stand tall, because it's easy to be influenced today. And if I had to be so blessed to have grandkids, that's what I would instill 24/7, is that the right thing to do and when to do it. And don't be the suggestions from the outside is not going to help you or support you on your inside. You need to make your own decisions. And like you say, the broader perspective is learning. That means you're going to make mistakes. Mm-hmm. So you can't learn really unless you did an oopsie. So you just want to make sure you don't take too many people down the oopsie road. So anyway, my thoughts and prayers go to all those involved in that tragic accident. And we just, like I said, all our kids out there, we need to learn from it. So, again, I feel for all the families and all the injured parties. So let's take another break. We've got Christine Marie right after these messages.
Brazil. Back in the USSR. Way down in LA. Every day, dancing in the street. Crossing China too. Me and you, dancing in the street.
We are back, and this is Santa Barbara Teen Sports Radio Show. I am your host, Erica Salt, the Queen of Teen. Please tune in
every single Tuesday
at 9 a.m.
Welcome back to Teen Sports Radio. This is Christine Marie with A View from the Deck. You can find me on A View from the Deck on Facebook, or you can give me a call at 805-350-2705. And what I want to talk about, the card I went going looking for it is the tarot card of the Seven of Pentacles, which actually says failure. But it's about letting go of the fear of failure and understanding that there isn't necessarily failure. There's no failure, only feedback. Of course, I'd have to say, that's huge feedback to kill somebody learning about alcohol and vehicles. It's major, it's intense, it's horrid. Right? It's also a big lesson for everybody else, right? And so that person's journey is a super powerful and very uncomfortable and difficult journey. And we can learn from that. And that person is learning from that in a very powerful way as well. But I think what we've been talking about here today has been so powerful in the sense of learning and transforming ourselves, and taking these mistakes. And we have to make mistakes. Mistakes are how we learn. It's how we get better. Those really huge ones, those are up on another level. But the little mistakes, or the, when we do, when in your sports team, when you do miss the ball, or when there's certain things that happen, and how do we come back to win the game? Brushing things off. So the next card that came is the Eon Judgment, which is we can learn from our mistakes. We can start over, and we can we can really rise above things. And there are all sorts of tips and tools, and we've talked about many of them today in the show. So that's what I have to share today from A View from the Deck.
Wow. Okay, so just to do a little cleanup here, next week we're going to have Ed Langlow. We did the Groove It in the Grove. He's going to go and lay out where all those monies went back into Santa Barbara. If anybody isn't aware, the Elks is the place. If you're over 50 years old, Elks is happening. They got the biggest dance floor. They're open now. COVID restrictions have lightened. Great lunches, great food. They do a lot for our community, and it's a beautiful 613. I've been a member now for almost 15 years. I met Ed because of the Elks, so keep the Elks in your heart this week, and let's set forth this week and just be mindful, maybe change some lights, take care of yourself this week. That's going to be the message this week. Take care of yourself. God bless you. See you next week.
Nothing's gonna happen.